Test 1 2 1 2. Hope that works. I'm gonna just move this to the side. Everyone. Ja, near Europe. Okay. For memorizing the notes on the fretboard. So this is something I also showed a lot of people this morning. It becomes very, very daunting because now on this guitar itself there's 150 possibilities of notes that you can play. Like you have your open strings, and then you have 24 frets, and then you have all the strings. So it becomes a nightmare if you're going to have to memorize every single position. Altogether, on the guitar there are, well, this one specifically, there are 150 different note positions that you can pretty much use. And that's really unrealistic if you have to memorize every single one of them. So what you have to do is find specific marker points, and then you add octaves to everything. So right now, what you need to understand is you have these dots on your fretboard. Like, think over here. This guitar doesn't have the dots on the actual fretboard, it has them over here. So, yeah, near Yopi. That does work, yeah. Absolutely. No, so, let's say you have all these notes and everything. Now, the important thing to know is that there are certain things that overlap. Like, you have your E string, your low E string, but you also have your high E string. So technically, you only have to learn the note positions on one of the strings. You don't have to learn both strings 24 notes, because this note and that note's exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same notes. So you only have to learn this string. You can pick whichever one, but I just choose the lowest string. So we've already eliminated 24 notes or note positions, so we don't have to worry about that. Next, if you notice as well with the guitar, it has a 12th fret. So that's where the 2 dots are. So where the 2 dots are, that means it's an octave carrying on. So an octave is just a higher version of a specific note. So now you have your open string, and then you have your 12th fret. Same note. What that also means is that your first fret and your 13th fret will be the same note, and your second and 14, third and 15. So technically, everything that's over here is just copied and pasted over here. So now we've eliminated 24 notes already. Now what we can pretty much do is cut this entire neck in half. We don't need to learn anything over here. We literally don't have to memorize anything here, because everything that is here is copied and pasted over here. So you don't have to worry about this right now. You don't have to really think about it. What you can think about is the dots on the E. So the dots. You memorize the dots. That's exactly right. So there's the dots, but you only have to memorize the dots on the E and the A string. You don't have to memorize them on all of the strings, because you're going to derive what the other ones are using octaves. So all you have to do realistically on guitar is memorize 14 note positions. 14 note positions. The reason I say that is because now you have the 6 open strings, and then the dots on the E and the A string. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If my mathematics is right, that's 14 notes. So you only have to really memorize 14. Because once you have that, if you know this is a G, you know the note above it is a G sharp, and the one below it is a G flat or an F sharp. So if you know your musical alphabet, you just use these dots as your place markers. And then you need to understand how octaves work from these 2 strings. So the octave, to find any note on the D string, you pretty much just go, like, you know how to play a power chord, I assume. So it's a root, fifth, and octave. So these 2 notes are exactly the same. So you just go, you play any note on the low E string, you go down 2 strings and up 2 frets. So those are the same notes. But now, how do you find one on the G string? It's pretty much also the same idea. You just take that note, you go down a couple, and back 3 frets. That's the same note. On the 5th fret of the E string, and the 2nd fret on the G string. So same notes. So from just this note, I can already find a bunch of other notes. So I have this one, then I have the octave of it, and then I also have, because my E string is the same, and then I also have the G. Only one I don't have is the B string, but I can find that using a double octave technically. So I go, so like that. So it really gets flippin' interesting. That's why you only actually have to know the low 2 strings, the dots of them. You use these as your place markers. The way I explained it to everyone this morning was, you have, in mathematics, if I ask you what 1 plus 1 is, you know 2. If I ask you what 2 plus 2 is, 4. You don't have to really calculate it or figure it out. But the thing is, there are an infinite number of equations, and you can't exactly memorize the answer to every single possible equation. Right now we have 150 possible equations, and it's it's ridiculous to try and memorize the answers for each of them. So what I suggest you do, memorize the answer to 14 equations, and then know how to derive what's that? That'll be 136 other equation answers, if that makes sense. That's the way I visualize the fretboard. That's the way almost everyone I know visualizes the fretboard, is using octaves. You can take the long route and memorize every single one. That actually will come as a byproduct of playing for a very long time. Why is it so valuable to know all of the different positions? You mean of the notes themselves, or do you mean like a scale position, or just everywhere, like all the notes? The reason for it, I guess, is just it saves you time when you have to learn something. It's just going to be a lot easier to learn something if you know where to look for it. If you have to, think of it like a toolbox or a cupboard in your house. If you know where certain things are, you can easily get to them and fix whatever you have to fix outside. Like if you have to first look for your tools, it's gonna take you forever to really fix or do whatever you have to do with it. So it's a nice to have. But if you also know, using formulas like what I said now with these markers, if you know in this cupboard I have these types of tools and in that cupboard I have that type of tools, then you sort of save a lot of time. So it's more categorizing information. It'll become a ton. I want it to be able to locate the scale notes easily. Yeah, it becomes a lot easier once you start noticing the patterns of everything. Music is pretty much just patterns. I mean, we really only have 12 notes, and in a key you're only going to use about 7 of them. So you'll learn how the shapes and everything fit together, and it's easier to move them. The notes themselves, why would you need to know 5 different Gs? You don't really need to know 5 different Gs. Like it's more like it's a flex thing. Someone asks, like pianists, it works very, very nicely because for them it's just a copy and paste every single place. It's not like you have a bunch of different strings. You don't need to really know precisely where to play it. But the thing is, if you want to know where all the 5 Gs are, pretty much, then the octaves help you for playing in different places on the neck. So I didn't necessarily memorize that's a G note. I know it's a G note, but you don't really have to memorize that that's a G note. But now that I know that it's a G note, I can play a lot higher. And so it's nice to have. It's not needs to have. It's just it saves you a lot of time. And locating the scale notes, it really does help if you know the note positions. Like if I know this is the major scale and I want to play that higher, then I'll be like, okay, then I can move a bit easier across the neck. You don't have to look as long. So that's pretty much it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's precisely right. So any tips for faster alternate picking? So that has 2 sections. I want to ask you, is it alternate picking on one string going faster, or alternate picking while changing strings as well? Because those are 2 fundamentally different sort of questions. Like if I just play faster on one string, multiple strings. Okay, that's a very different sort of question. So multiple strings. What you should check out is the number of notes that you play per string, and learn what they call pick slanting. So let me just write that down over here. So pick slanting. So pick slanting is basically how you position your pick, the angle of the pick in relation to the strings. So if you it's going to be difficult to really show, but like you have your pick and it's facing the strings, and then you can angle it like this, or like this. And then what that does is when you, let's say I'm angling it like this. I hope you can see. I'm not sure if you can see. But if you angle it like this and you pick, then your pick is going to be like trapped between these two strings because of the angle that you're pressing it. And then on your upstroke, your pick is going to come out. Let me see if I can do it like this. So when I pick, it goes in, and then it's trapped. And now it's difficult to get to another string. But when I pick up, then I can go to any string because I have that, what you call an escape motion. I play with the upward escape motion. It just it's a lot easier for me. It just came naturally by chance, but only after years of studying this stuff that I understand, like, okay, this is actually a DSX motion. A USX motion, an upward escape motion. If you really, really want to get fluent and great with this stuff, I recommend you get this. Get the Pick Slanting Primer by Troy Grady. That is the ultimate thing for your right hand technique with its speed and everything. The thing is, he goes into such great detail with great diagrams and everything about how this works. So the reason I just showed you this pick slanting stuff now. So imagine you're playing stuff 2 notes per string. The nice thing is down, up, down, up. Because of the way I'm angling my pick, I can escape the strings with an upstroke. If you keep everything like parallel to the thing, then you're trapped in every position, and then it's very difficult to jump over to another string. So it really, really does help to just understand the way, the angle that your picking is going. So like. So there's a lot of nice things like that. Problem comes in when there's an uneven number of notes per string. That is where the thing becomes a lot more difficult. Then you have to use what you call two-way pick slanting, which is a lot more difficult, but it pretty much is like. Then you sort of have to adapt while you play. That is one of the most difficult things, to play 3-note per string scale sequences at a high speed with alternate picking. It's a lot of people will just legato the thing, but like it doesn't have the tone that you maybe want from like picking. Learning a lot of songs with picking will probably help, also help a lot. Absolutely. Like the thing is, the more new songs you learn, the more stuff you are exposed to, the more you're forced to deal with it and encounter it. Like you can't really avoid it if you're playing songs the whole time that require or demand you to really play alternate picking on a certain level. Like it's not always you kind of have to confront this. So the more you're exposed to it, the more you'll be forced to practice it, and the more you're forced to practice it, the more you'll notice what you're struggling with what could it be. It could be anything. It could be maybe you're tilting your wrist a bit too much. Your wrist flexion or extension is a bit wrong. Where you're placing your hand might be a thing. Maybe muting's a thing. Maybe your hand sync is a problem. Like your right hand can go really, really fast and your left hand doesn't keep up, or vice versa. So it's learn as many songs as you can pretty much with that. Let's check. So how would you suggest I practice it? Because I've been trying to increase my alternate picking speed and keep hitting other strings. Okay, so if you keep hitting other strings, you need to get rid of your left hand for now. If you're right-handed, get rid of your left hand. Focus just on your right hand. Don't even play anything at this point. Like just play a dead note. And then try to minimize the movement. Remember, the movement comes from your wrist, not from your fingers. Your fingers are not really strong. The wrist is a very, very strong joint. And don't let, if you're playing single notes per string or something, don't use your elbow necessarily, because this is a very broad joint, and it's too much for such micro movements as picking. So picking, just move your wrist like that. Also make sure that the other 3 fingers are relaxed, that they're not extended like this, because that's going to tense you up and you're going to pick a bit wrong. Also, don't make it a fist, because then you're adding unnecessary tension to your hand. So just relax your hand, let it fall naturally, and just pick. Try to make the motion as small as possible. You don't necessarily have to pick so deep. Try to pick the way Rick Graham has explained this is you take your pick, and then you to make your motion smaller, you pick one note, and then you rest your pick on it on the other way. So like downstroke, so I pick down, and then I immediately pull up, but I don't pick up. I just pull up, so I mute it going up like that. And then you do that a couple times. But again, don't complicate it with your left hand. Keep it a very simple thing. Just play one note. It'll sound very chirpy, but like that's a way to really sort of understand what's going on. Yeah, that's just for one string, but you need to get your motion right first on one string before you start adding a bunch of variables and complicating it. So first make sure that on the one string that you're using the correct motions. When you go to another string, you can either extend your wrist motion, or you can then use your elbow just to change strings. So like, I don't know if you can see my elbow, it's moving very, very slightly, but like if I go for a much wider grip, then it's going to be. So it's like there's just so much detail that it's very difficult to go into just right now. But yeah, it's like if you have a very, very specific niche question or something, you can just send me a message, and then I'll have a look at that. But you said, does it help to practice just with the right hand, muting with the left hand and metronome? Absolutely. Abso-flippin-lutely. That is something that I learned from 2 teachers actually. And the way it works is your brain is like, there's certain neural pathways that you form, and you can only send so much information at one time. You cannot really you cannot send too many variables at once. So now if you're practicing this, for instance, let me see if I'm playing like this. So I'm doing that. So there's a bunch of variables involved here. Right now it's a string change, it's alternate picking, so up and down, it's palm muting, it's all 4 fingers, and it's hand synchronization, and it's changing strings, and it's muting as well. So there's so much going on there, and then all these variables are going to be fighting for space on the road, on the neural pathway to my brain to develop muscle memory. Everyone wants to drive on the road, but it's like there's not enough space. So sort of you have like a corrupted data flow that's becoming muscle memory, so you don't necessarily want that. So what my 2 teachers taught me was literally, even on arpeggio or something, just have your right hand do the motions, forget about the left hand, just have your right hand do the motions, focus on as few variables at a time as possible. So let's say the end goal was to play this. I want to play now this minor arpeggio, but there's so many variables involved. So what I'll just do is just and then focus exactly. What are the angles that my pick is hitting the string? What kind of pressure am I placing on the strings? When do I change direction? With arpeggios, there's pretty much two ways. There's the economy way of doing it, and then there's the Yngwie Malmsteen way of doing it. So the economy way is just you only really change the direction of your slanting or something when you are changing a direction. So like, it's so difficult to show without a close-up, but like let's say a 3-note per string, not a 3-note per string, a 3-string arpeggio. So the way economy picking would be is down, 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 up, pull off, up, down, down, up, pull off, up. But Yngwie is down, 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 up, pull off, up, down. So that's sort of like the difference between it. But it's preference, whatever helps you. But my teachers recommended the Yngwie one. So when I feel comfortable with my right hand picking, how do I practice the left hand individually? So that is a very, very good question, because again, you want to isolate your variables. So what you can do is get yourself a string mute. So you can just, let me see if I can quickly put this on. So now I have a string mute. I'm not going to worry about my right hand. So now, depending on what I have to play, let's say what I actually had to play was but now I don't want to worry about that. Then I can just go. But now the other thing you need to remember is I'm changing strings as well, and changing direction. Right now these are hammer-ons, and then a pull-off, 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 pull-off. So what I would do is take it to first one string, and then you just hammer on. So just do that a couple times. And try to keep the volume of each consistent, because you don't want to have sometimes you do, but you'll mainly emphasize that with your right hand, with your picking hand. If you want to go, you won't necessarily do that with your left hand. So just, and then what you should also pay attention to is if you're going to be shifting positions a little bit, just understand, like let's say you had to do this. That was terrible. Now you have to understand how to maybe position your hand. What you can do is you can change your fingerings that you're using, because what's easy is index, ring, pinky. But because you need to be moving, what might be easier is so index, middle, ring instead of index, ring, pinky. Because now the distance I have to travel to my next note is quite far. So what I'll do is I'll decide, okay, I'm going to play this thing actually. Then I'm already there. So it's all about the decisions you make regarding what you want to actually play. Like think a little bit ahead. Just know, like, okay. So it really gets, there's so much detail involved in it, but it varies from case to case. But try to isolate it as much as possible. The best way to practice the left hand isolated will be just keep it on one string and legato. Just legato it. Forget about your right hand. Because there's only so many combinations that you can really have with your left hand. Like there's and then and like there's only really so many combinations. With your right hand there are so many sequences and string changes and patterns and things that you can really explore. Like you can go there's so much involved there, because that's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So it's like a triplet thing, but with with a grouping of 8, which makes and it's across 3 strings. So it really varies from case to case. It can be it's it's really, really fun. So yeah. So it's better to practice speed with both hands, not necessarily individually. It depends. Like it's a bit of a it's like, okay. So let me just make sure I'm understanding you right. I use the Neural DSP John Petrucci right now. It's the John Petrucci one. So it's better to practice speed with both hands, not necessarily individually. Yes and no. It depends what you're struggling with. Like if you're trying to play a certain thing, like let's say this, and your right hand is fine playing this in isolation, then your left hand maybe just has to learn the agility for it. But generally, if you're going to be speeding up, you're going to want to put your hands together, because otherwise it's going to be you're going to desync a bit too much. So what I would recommend you do, group it into I feel as if my right hand is running away from my left. Okay, group it into 4 notes. Don't play an entire string of notes of like a few bars. Group it into 4 notes. So go like, or 3 notes even. Just go. And then like add one string a little bit, but pay attention to when you have to actually do certain things that are a lot more difficult. So right now what I'm doing is I'm 1 2 3 and then I'm changing strings. That string change is the hardest part of this whole thing. So I don't want to necessarily play across 3 strings if I cannot even do it on these 2. So I'll first want to get it right. One really good exercise Paul Gilbert has is the So I will group it into very, very small chunks. If you have to play now a lot of notes, you're not really going to be able to focus on what is changing. You're going to be thinking too much about the notes you have to play versus like actually how to play them. So rather break it into very, very small bits. Like this one thing I was trying to learn is like what do you call it? It's like economy picking, but sort of a little bit different. So like the Frisian dominant scale will be the harmonic minor scale, so it'll just be Phrygian dominant is really, really fun. It's super cool. So, yeah, Phrygian dominant, it's it's a mode of the harmonic minor scale. So, really, really cool. But ja, Jopie, ek hoop dit antwoord jou vraag. Dit is maar ja, dit is 'n bietjie moeilik as jou hande nie in sync is nie. So dis nog 'n bietjie van 'n probleem. So ja. But yeah, just break it up into little bits like that. Break it up into little chunks. How to make a chord progression in Phrygian dominant scale. So you first need to understand how the Phrygian dominant works. Like, let me just take this off. So the Phrygian dominant, yeah, practice is the answer. Shortly, I'm just using my phone. My phone. But for chord progression in the Phrygian dominant, so the Phrygian dominant, the only way it differs from the minor scale is a sharp 7. So the minor scale is, but for the Phrygian dominant, this is raised 1. Then you just need to understand how, like, it all relates back to the major scale. So I know there's a major. That's to write a chord progression in the Phrygian dominant scale is a very, very long, long lesson on its own. But the way to actually get started with it is just to, like, let's say you're in the key of A. You can go to your E, and then your F, and then your A flat, and then your A again. So you can go. I got sort of the Phrygian dominant sound there. That sort of thing. Hybrid picking. I would like some tips as well, but hybrid picking is a bit more advanced. What you can try to do is already position your fingers that you're going to be hybrid picking with on the strings that you foresee playing. Like, hybrid picking has really become a popular thing now with bands like Polyphia and Animals as leaders and all these really good prog bands. Like, I think what's that? I couldn't remember how to play that. All these other things. Yes, I can't even remember. I don't use hybrid picking that much. I'm actually really not the person to advise you on that. There are so much better people that can give you advice for that. But hybrid picking as a tool is very, very useful. But I don't use it as much as I probably should. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm not able to help you with that. But it is fun. It's like. It's one thing I also actually want to learn a bit more. Classical guitar, like the sort of tremolo stuff. It's really, 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 really cool. Some Indian classical music. No, I don't really know Indian classical music, but it does have that sort of Frisian sound. Like, yeah. Any advice for self-taught players? So I think there's two things I can give advice to for self-taught players. First thing, surround yourself with musicians who are better than you. If you're just playing by yourself in your room, you will always be the best player in your environment. What you should do is yeah, find some friends. It can be at a bar, it can be at a church or anything. Like, really, just surround yourself with other musicians who can do things that you cannot. And then you'll be able to evaluate yourself against them and see, like, okay, this person picks a lot faster than I can, but why? And then you can just sort of you sort of investigate a bit like that, and it gets really, really exciting because then you sort of learn a lot more from each other. The second thing I could recommend is get a teacher who is experienced and who has who really knows what they're talking about. And I mean, like, not just someone who has necessarily been playing guitar for 20 years or has been practicing or teaching for 20 years or something. Find someone who actually knows the mechanics of your anatomy, the body, because it's very micromotor skills that you're learning. So you need to find yourself a teacher with that actually knows if your technique that you've been using all this time as a self-taught guitarist is good or bad, or if you need to change something. You need to really evaluate if what you've been doing up until this point, teaching yourself, is not necessarily correct, but if it's holding you back, maybe. It'll be good to have that, and to surround yourself with musicians. They are intimidating, unfortunately, but the thing is, it's the reality of it. You will have to expose yourself. You have to be willing to be vulnerable if you want to grow as a musician. I am every week surrounded by musicians who are so much better than me. So I constantly just try to find out, like, how on earth are you playing that? Like, how does it sound so cool? And then when I try to do it, it's like, oh my word, yeah. Yeah, everyone has struggled with something, so don't feel too discouraged or intimidated. Like, it's as long as you're teachable and your attitude is correct, then you'll be fine. How to make chord progressions using borrowed chords. So borrowed chords or chord substitutions. It's a very, very music theory-esque thing. What you can try is so you take a borrowed chord is pretty much just, you can borrow it from, let's say, another key, or from another sort of scale type thing. So there's a few ways of doing it. Is like, if you have in classical music, they call it a Neapolitan chord. It's a very, very complicated thing. I recommend just reading up on that. Read up on the Neapolitan chord, and that'll help you understand exactly how to use borrowed chords and stuff. But the easiest way is, let's say you have a chord progression, so like a 1-4-5. Cool. Now let's make sure they're major. What you can do is you can change one of them to maybe a minor. It'll give you a bit of a more unique sound. So like, you have your major, and then go. It sounds a lot better with a clean tone. Let me just quickly get that. Sounds a bit rough. Let me get. So like that. So I just changed the 4 to a minor. So it sounds really, really interesting. What you can also do is you can add a sharp 5 when you're going to another section. So like, let's say you're going 4, then 5, and then you're going to go to 6. But before the 6, you can maybe add a sharp 5 just to make it a bit better. So like 4, 5, sharp 5, 6. So it's like, it adds that sort of that tension and release when you resolve it to the 6. So it's really, really nice. Oh, super cool. We used a clean tone before today. Now the thing is, practicing, I have I have three main tones that I practice with. Never with delay, because delay can deceive you into thinking that you're playing much nicer than you actually are. That's the problem. So I switch off my delays on all my sounds when I practice. Then I have three sounds. One sound is the nice sound that I just enjoy playing with, like a really, really nice tone. And that's for my general practice and stuff. Then I have the opposite, which is very, very clean, which is what I have now. And what that helps me do is pay attention to the notes that I'm playing, because it's easy to play a lot of shreddy stuff when you have a lot of compression and gain and everything, because then you don't really have to worry about like consistency. But so then I'll use a really clean tone when I have to play very, very when I want to make sure that the notes I'm playing are actually proper. Then I do the total opposite. I put on as much gain as possible and as much pedals as anything, so that I can practice my muting, because then it sort of exaggerates the mistakes that you play. So like if I was to, let me quickly gooi something like ish. This is a drive. Let me add some more gain. Okay. So now it's like, it's a lot like that. So now all my movements are exaggerated. So now it's going to help me to pay attention to the things that I'm not playing. What one of my teachers has called dark matter, the things outside of what you're actually playing. It's really, really cool. But like, so I have these three tones that I practice with. Very, very high gain, then very clean, and then my normal tone, which is just fun. And but for all of them, delays, switch it off. You can have a bit of reverb, but your delays, take it off. It's gonna make you feel much better than you actually are. Oh, flip. Quickly have a look at suspension chords for changing scales in the middle of a song, in the middle of a key. Suspension chords for changing scales in the middle of a key. That's also a bit more complicated, because now if you want to change scales in the middle of a key, you can do what's known as a modal interchange. That's where you borrow from a different mode. So now if you have like your major scale, which is your Ionian, and then you want to add like a Dorian feel to it, so that's basically your 2. And now if you want to add that, you sort of pretend that your key has shifted when it actually hasn't, and then you play those chords. That's a little bit, that is such a blasphemous explanation of the music theory behind it, but it is the gist of it. But it's not too difficult. But you if you're very interested in like the music theory aspect of it, have a look at a guy called David Bennett Piano. He's extremely good with it. And then it looks like it. He's a piano player. So have a look at David Bennett Piano. And I think the guy's name is Music Theory for Guitar. He is brilliant when it comes to explaining the music theory stuff, and especially the harmony and chord side of things. It's really it's incredible. Like, that guy is insane when it comes to it. He'll explain it in a much more accurate way than I can at this moment. But it's very, very interesting. Yes. Yeah. But no, it's I think you're maybe a piano player or a composer. But that's gonna be me. I haven't actually practiced that much now during this practice session. But it's just it's very, very good questions. But I hope everyone has learned something from this. It really it's really nice being able to share some of my knowledge and experience in such a relaxed environment. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm gonna sign off.